What's up, family? What's up, family? Let's make sure that everything is connected here, and we're going to jump right into this training because this is going to be a powerful one today. Hold on here one second. Just want to make sure our tech is good and we are live and rocking and rolling. Do a quick check here. We are live. Welcome to the live show. We're good. Can y'all hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's get right to it, y'all. So I'm so excited about this particular training, y'all, because this is where we have evolved as in this financial industry. So again, my name is Perry Jeffries here with Cash Flow Unlocked. Welcome to the channel if you've never visited before. And what I'm going to teach today is how you can retire in 3 years versus waiting 30 years. And I know that is a big ask, right? That is like, whoa, Perry, like how are you gonna teach this, right? I know that is a big task, but I'm gonna walk you through it because how I can walk you through it is because we've actually done it on our end. So let's go ahead and rock and roll here with this thing, right? So first myth that we want to make sure that we really line kind of dial into, and this myth is super important that you start to recalibrate your mind and how you think about money. Most people think that they have to work 30 years in order to become financially free, right? 30 years. You know why? Because that's what we've been conditioned to believe. Hey, man, I got to go out and I got to go get a job and then go get a job and then, no, sorry, go to school, get a job, work 30, 40 years, and hopefully one day be able to retire, right? So that's what we have been taught. And it's not, we didn't just come out the gate thinking like this is what it is. This is what we have been taught. This is what we have been told. Right. Well, here's the reality, family. I've helped clients, multiple clients, collapse this time frame by decades. We've literally helped people, carrying out on become a work optional in 18 months, helping our client Andrea become a work optional in 12 months, right? When I decided to do this, I was on a 3 year window where I'm 100% work optional by the time I turn 50, right? We are helping clients recalibrate and rewrite the narrative so that they can actually become work optional in 3 years versus having to sit and wait and hope and pray that one day they'll have enough money to be able to quote unquote retire in 30 years. So, my promise to you this day is I'm going to show you why by setting this 3 year goal, right? And also to consolidating these time frames is key in helping you retire, or like what we prefer to say, become work optional in 3 years instead of 30. All right, let's get into some of this math over here, right? Um, First thing we have to do is this: we have to get crystal clear on your goal. One of the deterrents of creating wealth or becoming financially free is not having specificity around what the goal is. And that specificity has to have two variables. You need to know how much cash flow is needed, and you need to know when you want to have it by. Okay. So let me give you this analogy. And this happened with a conversation I had with a friend of mine literally yesterday. So we were talking and he calls, he sent me this long text, and then we jump on a call, right? So he's a very savvy real estate investor, spent time in corporate America, wife is still with corporate America, right? And he has these questions about, man, should I start selling property? Should I look to refinance? Should I start paying off debt? Like, when do you know what you should do? And I looked at him, I spoke to him very simply, and then we actually got into a FaceTime call. I said, well, bro, I can't advise you on any of that until you can tell me how much cash flow do you want to have and by when. Those are the two things that you must have thought out. It's not a goal unless it's measurable and time based, right? When it comes to your finances. So, literally, we had this conversation and I gave him this analogy. I said, hey, bro, imagine, and this is where I'm going to share my screen now. So let me bear with me here one second. I'm going to share this screen. Whiteboard. Okay. So first of all, to big shout out to Myron Golden, and big shout out to Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I first learned about Benjamin Hardy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, from Myron Golden. Was on one of Myron's YouTubes, and he had Dr. Benjamin Hardy on here, and his book is the Scaling Framework. And not only has it changed my life with respects to my business, but it gave me a great analogy and a great tool that was in perfect alignment with how we help our clients manage their money. So here's the deal. So this first axis here, this is your goal. Okay. And this other axis down here, this is your time. So most of us have been put on this deal, and let's call this, get that out the way. Let's call this the goal is up here. Okay. Most of us have been taught that we have to work 30 years to reach that goal, right? And when I was talking to my friend, I said, well, hey, man, until you tell me a time, until you can articulate to me how much cash flow you want, because we teach this in our boot camp, and we also help our mentees and our members in our mentorship program. This is how we help them create financial freedom for themselves and become work optional. We believe 100% that financial freedom is the point in time when your passive, reoccurring monthly income is more than your recurring expenses. Okay. So that's the first thing on the GPS is where do you want to go? Do you know this number? What is your number? Is your number I want to have, $5,000 a month? Is it I want to have $10,000 a month? Is it I want to have $15,000 a month? Guess what? What's so awesome about this is your number. What my goal is different to yours. This is your destination, family. And two, you are 100% crystal clear on what you need to the type of income that you need to create. You're just throwing shit on the wall and hoping it sticks. You need to have 100% clarity. Like I can tell somebody with 100% clarity looking at my spreadsheet that our monthly nut expenses and lifestyle goal is $10,251 a month. Like you need to be able to have that type of clarity so you know what to solve for because this is your destination, right? And then your time is here. So we've been taught that, hey, it's going to take you 30 to 40 years. So let's call this 30 years here, right? So pause. So I gave this, when I was having this conversation with my buddy, I said, imagine you and I get into a car and we're about to do a road trip. We done filled the gas up, the whole nine. And we never discussed where we were going. And then we get in a car and it's like, all right, where are we going? You're like, dude, I don't know. Let's just go. Dude, are we going north? Are we going south? You're like, when do we need to be there? Like, so it's kind of crazy when you think about it, right? That's how most of us have been taught to navigate our finances. Hey, it's going to take you 30 years and just do these things along the way, right? Go get a degree, open up your 401k, contribute to a Roth, do this over here, roll your account over. Hey, right? And then one day, hopefully, we'll get to this nest egg number, right? Well, that doesn't make sense because most people don't have a large enough nest egg to be able to cover their monthly expenses. So why don't we first of all make the nest egg instead of the nest egg, make it a cash flow goal? Hey, my cash flow goal is to be at, let's call it $5,000 a month. Okay, cool. All right. Now, that's the destination, and this is the time frame. I said, bro, if we got into a car and we don't know where we're going or we want to get there, we don't even know if we're in the right vehicle. Right. So this is where Dr. Hardy's trainings come into play. And when I read it, I was like, my God, this is what I've been trying to tell people. I just haven't been able to say it this well. Right. This is what they've told us we need to do. What if we kept the same goal, but let's make the goal green. Let's say we kept the same goal, but we, ooh, don't like that pen. Oh, that's kind of thick. I see what I'm doing here. Y'all bear with me here. There we go. Let's say we kept the same goal, family, right? Draw my chart here again. But instead of going 30 years, what if we went three? So now we got 3 years. So it's the equivalent of us getting into the car and saying, hey, man, we're going to California. Okay, cool. Well, when do we need to get there? Bro, we need to be there tomorrow for the party. Well, bro, it's impossible for us to get there tomorrow for the party. We are in the wrong vehicle. We don't need to be in a car. We actually need to be in a plane. So we can still get there, but we're in the wrong vehicle. So most of us are in this little sorry car, a minivan that, I'm saying, that the industry has told us that we need to be in, and we're just chugging along, going slow and steady, right? Well, it's nothing wrong with changing your vehicle. So instead of being in a car, what if you got in a plane, right? My plane with my wings here and propellers and all of that, right? And got to the same destination faster. Is it fair enough to say that, hey, the plane goes faster than the car, right? But it's the same place. It may even cost the same amount of money, right? When you start factoring the gas and the wear and tear on the car and the whole nine, right? But instead of being in a car, what I'm saying, you used and paying for the car and the gas to go across country, you paid for round trip ticket, and you got there faster. Huh. So here's the deal, family. Let me ask you this question. If you reprogrammed your brain and ask yourself this question, yes, I am on a 30-year plan. What would you do different if you were on a 3-year plan to hit the exact same goal? Right now, here's the deal. Most of us are setting a goal of, I want to have a nest egg. What now for you to, what I'm saying, let's say your goal was to have a, 10 million dollar nest egg, right? You might need that time to get there. But if your goal, instead of being a $10 million nest egg, what I'm saying, right? Matter of fact, let's not even just make up numbers. Let's just use real numbers here. If we needed $5,000 a month, $5,000 a month times 12 is $60,000 a year, which divided by 5% is 1.2 million. Most people are on the, hey, it's going to take me 30 years to get up to 1.2 million. But that same 1.2 million, technically, at the 5% rule, is really $60,000 a year or $5,000 a month. What's going to be easier for you to get to, family? It's going to be easier for you to get to $5,000 a month and monthly recurring income coming from real estate and entrepreneurship profits and online profits and making money online and traditional, non-traditional investments, right? It's going to be quicker for you to get $5,000 in cash flow than it is to get 1.2 million in a nest egg. Most people are going to say, man, it's going to be easier to get to 5,000. So why aren't we making that the goal? So, matter of fact, let's get crystal clear on, because the whole point of getting to 1.2 million is not to have 1.2 million, it's to have a nest egg that's going to give us $5,000 a month. Well, for you to get $5,000 a month, you have a nest egg of 1.2 million. But the real goal isn't the 1.2 million. The goal is actually the $5,000 a month. So, why not we focus on that? Then we say, hey, instead of waiting for 30 years, how do we get there in 3? Guess what? You got to change your vehicle. When you change your vehicle and you get out of the car, instead of setting that money aside to do that whole piece, you now get on the plane. You can get there faster. So the question then comes down to be, family, is this: what is the plane? Right? And that's what we're going to kind of share with you here today. But I first had to share with you, like, yo, instead of focusing on the nest egg goal, because that's not the real goal. The reason people grow in the nest egg is so that one day they can turn the switch on and have income. Well, why don't you just go and get the income and get the cash flow now? And then when you say, hey, and this is what we learned kind of from Benjamin Hardy's book, The Scaling Framework, was, you know what? If I set this impossible goal, and so when we say impossible goal, right? So impossible goal with impossible time frame. Hey, like that sounds impossible to many of us. Man, Perry, what do you mean? I thought all of us have to work 30, 40 years. Well, no, you don't actually. So what if you did it in 3 years? If you had to get it accomplished in 3 years, what would you be doing differently today? What would you be focusing on? In the book, he calls out, I think, a quote by Elon Musk that the biggest mistake that most engineers make is optimizing for something that they actually don't need. So if you got crystal clear and you knew, like, man, my goal is $5,000 a month in the next 3 years. What are you doing differently today? Are you still putting money away into that, into that index fund, $100 a month, hoping and praying that one day is 1.2 million? Or are you doing something different with your skill set? Are you doing something different with your resources that's going to get you closer to that goal? Woo! So here's the deal, y'all. It's a matter of flipping how you think. You have to change the way you think. You've been taught that you have to work for 30 years. But do you want to? I know I don't. And when that switch went off and I said, I'm gonna get this thing accomplished in 3 years. You know what I'm saying? By the time I turned 50, it changed my entire framework. It changed entirely where I was putting my dollars. What I started doing was storing my cash inside my cash value policies. So, what I'm saying, setting up automation. But first of all, storing my cash inside my cash value policies so I can make money in two places. I could earn interest uninterrupted in my cash value policies, and then use policy loans, i.e., of somebody else's money, OPM, to then go buy real estate with my wife. Then we put automations in place where we said, hey, we're going to set a fixed dollar amount to automatically go into our brokerage accounts and things of that nature, because I'm fine with pumping that money away because I know I can access capital in the form of, security based lines or credit loans. So now we're pumping money automatically into those assets. So I'm pumping cash. The cash that would normally sit in my bank and my checking and savings account is now in my cash value policies. The monies that I typically invest are now going automatically into my retirement accounts and my brokerage accounts and my stock accounts, because I know I can access those funds. I can access my with my brokerage account. I can get access to money via security-based lines of credit, where I can just put money in the account. It continues to grow in the stocks that I choose. And if I need money, I know I can borrow anywhere between 70 and 80% in the form of a line of credit. So I have this amount of freedom that I can pump in as much money as I want into it, right? So this is when you start to change the way you think. Now we're acquiring these assets. Now we're growing the business at an accelerated rate, because now we have access to capital, because we went from, oh, I got to hoard it all the way and squirrel it all the way and eat rice and beans and sardines. And big shout out. Big shout out to rice and beans and sardines. First of all, I love rice and beans and I love sardines, but I want to eat it when I want to eat it, not because I have to eat it. So I'm not squirreling money away and living way below my means for one day, hopefully get to the point when I'm 60, 70 years old with bad knees and ankles, because I got those now at 40 something. To be like, okay, well, now let's go on vacation. Why go on vacation now when I'm too damn tired to actually enjoy it? No, I want to live my best life now. So I changed the way I thought. I set a what some people would think is an impossible goal, and I brought down the time frame. And when I set this goal of this is what the cash flow I'm going to bring in per month to be financially free, when I brought it into, instead of waiting 30 years into 3 years, it made me get laser focused on what I need to do now, and made me throw away all the other stuff. Right. So that's the power. So big shout out to Benjamin Hardy, right? Dr. Benjamin Hardy, for coming to this piece, because I was already practicing it, but I didn't have a visual of it. And when I heard him speak on it on Myron Golden's podcast, then I turned around and got the book and started studying the book. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been trying to tell people. Because when I tell people, I'm at the sauna, real quick story. I'm at the sauna and at the gym, and I can go to the gym anytime I want to, right? And typically I'm there, and it's a lot of retirees there. And I remember one of the retirees, was surprised that I was close to 50, because he thought I was a younger dude. And then he was like, well, shoot, you only got, I'm saying, like, 15, 20 years left. And I was like, for what? He said, before you retire. I said, oh, I'm work optional now. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I'm not working. I'm not retiring. My goal is to be work optional, and I'll be work optional by the time I turn 50. I'm about there now already. And he just looked at me befuddled. He's like, you're retired now? I said, well, if you consider retirement not having to do anything that I don't want to do in exchange for money and doing exactly what I want to do and work with exactly who I want to work with and move exactly where I want to go and eat exactly what I want to eat, I guess you could say I'm retired if that's what you define as retirement. That's why I'm able to sit in the sauna with you on a, I'm saying, at a 10 a.m. on a Monday and not have to check in and work for anybody. So he was just mind blown because that seemed impossible, right? Well, when you set a big goal and you shorten that time frame, you are now forced to focus on the things that are most important to move that needle. Whew. All right, y'all. So as we finish this piece up, I hope that was powerful for you, right? I hope you're connecting the dots. And this is what we teach inside our financial freedom boot camp, our 5-day challenge, right? Because we're teaching individuals how to think like the bank, right? You have to start in order for you to create, in order for you to create freedom, financial freedom. In order for you to create financial freedom, you have to get clear on what your freedom number is. You need to know what number you're solving for. And after you know what number you're solving for, then you need to set a date of when that number is going to be solved. When you do that, you move from you automatically have to move from personal finance into business finance because there's no way for you to get there using personal finance. The tools that they gave us to manage our money, hey, get term life insurance, buy term investor rest, hey, dollar cost average, $100 a month into, this account. And one day, in 30, 40 years, you'll have $1 million, right? You have to take that and throw that away. You have to start thinking like the banks in the sense of how can I generate cash flow today? And then how can I take that cash flow that I generate today and recycle it to accelerate and give me more cash flow? So when you do that, you immediately have to throw away and stop focusing on the long-term dollar cost average situation and go into, well, where do the banks store their cash? How do businesses leverage debt to acquire assets and reduce taxes? How do I reduce my taxes? How do I leverage my assets? How do I create cash flow? That's the play, family. That's where you got to get your head wrapped. That's what you got to get your head wrapped around, right? And that's what we teach in our financial freedom bootcamp. If I were you watching this video, in the description, go click on the link to join the Financial Freedom Bootcamp right now. And for the rest of the year, the admission is free for 5 days to learn how to think like the bank and start to transform your finances, not only for you today. We want you to live your best life today, but also too, now you'll have the tools to teach the next generation how to do exactly what you're doing, right? So I will go register for that right now. Okay. Quick public service announcement. Okay, let's keep the party going. Here's the deal, family. Retiring in 3 years versus 30 is possible when you get crystal clear on what you're solving for, when you're crystal clear on your freedom number, and when you draw that line in the sand and say, I'm gonna have this done in 3 years, right? And how I like to think about it, I like to look at, kind of this 10-to-1 ratio. For every 10 years that somebody said I had to work, right? I'm going to condense that down to 1 year. I'm going to get accomplished in 1 year what they said would take 10 years. In order for me to do that, I have to change my vehicle. But also, too, not only have to change my vehicle, I have to change my mindset. I have to start thinking like businesses that make cash flow very quickly versus thinking like the consumer who's hoping and praying that they can save their way with 1% returns on their savings account and a 10% return on their stock market investment, and hope and pray that they have enough time to actually get to the finish line. So that's the deal. And when you make that shift and you start to understand the right numbers and you get coached on how to now how you coached around how you now need to change what you're currently doing with the same money. Because what's crazy about this, y'all, I was able to retire my wife at 40. I'll be work optional by 50, 100%. Actually, two, I should say it more correctly, because I know some people are like, well, Perry, are you work optional or you're not work optional? Which one are you? The deal is at 50, I want to be 200% financially free. Well, Perry, what do you mean 200% financially free? If my monthly nut is 10, I'm going to have 20,000 coming in monthly. So I'm already at 100%, 93% last time I checked, but I want to be at 200%. I want to be at 200%. after my 50th birthday, right? And you can get there, family, but you have to get in the right rooms and learn how to navigate and change the way that you think. You're not going to change the way that you think overnight. That is going to take time, and it's going to take connecting with people who are doing what you're trying to do and further along than you so they can mentor you and tell you when to turn, when to go straight, and things of that nature. All right. So that's the call for today, y'all. That was the training. Be sure to like, share, pass this on to your friends and family, right? Because here's the deal: you don't have to wait 30 years to retire. You can be work optional in the next 3 to 7. All right, y'all. This was valuable. Boom. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, make sure you like. That lets us and comment too. We want to know if this was valuable to you because we want to know what kind of comment that you, what kind of content you want us to create for you, right? You know what I'm saying? We're doing this for you guys. So we want to make sure that we are actually creating content that you are enjoying and that you are getting value out of. All right, y'all. Perry Jeffries here with Cash Flow Unlocked.